Captain Taeyang had never been good at sitting still. Right now, he was supposed to be sitting quietly in the most important meeting of his life, but his leg bounced under the table like a jackhammer. Around him, the Galactic Council chamber stretched up into darkness, filled with aliens of every shape and color imaginable. The meeting had been going on for 3 hours. 3 entire hours. Taeyang glanced at his chief engineer, Jin, who sat beside him. She was drawing tiny spaceships on her datapad instead of taking notes. When she noticed him looking, she grinned and added little explosions around the ships. The human delegation will remain silent, announced Ambassador Velthar from his floating platform. The insect-like alien's wings buzzed with irritation. His species, the Kilon, had been in space for 10,000 years. They didn't appreciate interruptions from newcomers. Taeyang had already interrupted twice, once to ask if they could speed things up, and once to suggest they just vote instead of talking in circles. Neither suggestion had gone over well. As I was saying, Velthar continued, his mandibles clicking, we must consider the environmental impact assessment before we even discuss forming a committee to study the possibility of— Excuse me, a new voice cut in. This one belonged to High Commander Breckmore of the Scar Empire. The massive reptilian alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in red scales. I do not care about your committees. My planet shares this sector. When will you act? Patience, Commander, Velthar said. We have procedures, protocols. These things take time. We don't have time. Breckmore's tail slammed against the floor. The asteroid field will reach the Quilon homeworld in 6 days. That got everyone's attention. Taeyang sat up straighter. An asteroid field? This was the first he'd heard about any actual danger. He'd thought they were just arguing about trade routes or something equally boring. Yes, well, Velthar's voice wavered slightly. That is why we are meeting. To discuss options. You've been discussing for 3 hours, Taeyang said. He couldn't help himself. Every alien in the chamber turned to look at him. Some had eyes, some had sensor stalks, and some had things he couldn't even identify. All of them looked annoyed. Captain Taeyang, Velthar said slowly. Humans have been part of this council for exactly 47 days. Perhaps you should observe more and speak less. Right, sorry. Taeyang held up his hands. But just to be clear, there's a bunch of asteroids heading toward a planet full of people, and we're forming committees. It is not that simple. Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a floating jellyfish made of crystal. The asteroid field is massive. Thousands of objects. Any attempt to divert or destroy them could make things worse. Our scientists have run simulations, Velthar added. Every scenario shows catastrophic failure. The best option is to evacuate the planet and wait for the field to pass. Evacuate 4 billion Kilon, Breckmore growled. Where would they go? That is what we are trying to determine, Velthar said quietly. Taeyang looked at Jin. She was already pulling up data on her pad, her fingers flying across the screen. After a moment, she leaned over and whispered to him. The field's velocity is actually pretty slow, she said. And the asteroids aren't that dense. I could probably— Don't say it, Taeyang whispered back. But I could totally— I know you could. They looked at each other. Jin's eyes sparkled with that particular look she got when she had a terrible, wonderful idea. Taeyang knew that look. It usually ended with something exploding or someone yelling at them. Often both. The evacuation will take months, Velthar was saying. We'll need transport ships, processing centers, temporary habitats. Or, Taeyang said, standing up, we could just blow it up. The chamber fell silent. Not the thoughtful kind of silent. The shocked, horrified kind of silent, excuse me? Velthar's wings had stopped buzzing entirely. The asteroid field. We could destroy it, break it into smaller pieces that would burn up in the atmosphere or miss the planet entirely. Taeyang shrugged. Seems easier than moving 4 billion people. That is— Velthar searched for words. That is the most barbaric, reckless, dangerous suggestion I have ever heard. It's definitely dangerous, Jin added helpfully. But it would work. Absolutely not. The crystal jellyfish pulsed with angry colors. Such crude methods are beneath civilized species. Our simulations show it's impossible, Velthar said firmly. The field is too large. Any explosion would simply create more dangerous debris. Did your simulations include human weapons? Taeyang asked. Your weapons are barely more advanced than chemical rockets, Velthar said. No offense intended. Some taken, Tae-Yang muttered. Then louder. Look, we've been blowing stuff up for a really long time. We're good at it. Let us take a look at the problem. This is not a matter for discussion, Velthar said. We will proceed with the evacuation plan. This meeting is... Tae-Yang picked up his datapad and handed it to Hyojin. Hold my soju. What? Velthar tilted his head in confusion. Captain? Hyojin took the pad, grinning. I'll be back in 3 hours, Tae-Yang said. He was already walking toward the exit. We'll have your asteroid problem solved before dinner. You cannot just leave. Velthar's wings buzzed frantically. This is a council session. We haven't dismissed. Yijin, get the crew ready for departure. Jiho needs to plot a course to the asteroid field. Donghyun should start prepping the special packages we've been saving. On it, Captain. Hyejin was already running after him, speaking into her communicator. Captain Tae-Yang. Velthar's voice echoed through the chamber. If you leave this station without authorization, it will be considered a violation of council law. Tae-Yang stopped at the doorway and turned back. Every alien was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. Ambassador, with all respect, your planet is about to get flattened by space rocks. We can either sit here talking about it for 6 more days, or we can go do something about it. He smiled. I vote for option 2. This is madness, the crystal jellyfish said. Probably, Tae-Yang agreed. But here's the thing about humans. We're really good at pulling off the impossible stuff, especially when someone tells us we can't. He walked out. Behind him, the council chamber erupted into chaos. Aliens were shouting, arguing, demanding that someone stop the crazy human. Tae-Yang could hear Breckmore's deep laugh echoing above it all. By the time he reached the docking bay, his entire crew was already aboard the Soul's Pride. The ship hummed with energy, ready to launch. Jiho sat at the pilot's console running pre-flight checks. Donghyun was in the weapons bay, and Dr. Yuna was monitoring the alien communication channels. Captain, Yuna called out, the Kelon are sending very angry messages. They're demanding we stand down. Tell them we'll send a postcard, Tae-Yang said, settling into the captain's chair. Jiho, get us out of here. With pleasure, sir. The Soul's Pride detached from the station and accelerated away. Through the view screen, Tae-Yang could see the council station growing smaller behind them. Ahead lay the asteroid field, a dark cloud of tumbling rocks that threatened an entire world. Yijin, he said, tell me you have a plan. Oh, Captain, she replied, pulling up holographic displays of the asteroid field. I have the best worst plan you've ever heard. Tae-Yang grinned. That's what I like to hear. Let's go save a planet. The asteroid field looked worse up close. Much worse. Tae-Yang stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching thousands of tumbling rocks fill the view screen. Some were small as cars. Others were the size of buildings. A few were practically mountains floating through space, dark and deadly. Well, Jiho said from the pilot's seat, this is going to be fun. Your definition of fun worries me, Dr. Yuna muttered. She was translating the flood of messages coming from the Quelon homeworld. Captain, they're begging us to turn back. They say we're going to make things worse. We might, Tae-Yang admitted, but doing nothing definitely makes things worse. What's our time frame? The leading edge of the field will hit atmosphere in 5 days and 8 hours, Yejin said. She was studying the holographic display, her eyes bright with concentration. But the really big asteroids, the ones that would cause extinction-level impacts, those hit in 5 days exactly. So we have 5 days to stop doomsday. No pressure. Tae-Yang turned to his engineer. You said you had a plan? Yejin grinned. It was the same grin she'd had when she'd modified the ship's engines to go twice as fast as they were supposed to. The same grin from when she'd improved the weapon systems without telling anyone. Tae-Yang had learned to both love and fear that grin. Okay, so the council ran their simulations, right? Hyejin brought up a display. They tried conventional explosives, tried ramming the asteroids, tried using tractor beams to push them away. Everything failed because the field is too dense. Break one asteroid and the pieces hit others, creating more debris. Right, Tae-Yang said. So how do we do it differently? We don't break them. We vaporize them. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. Explain, Tae-Yang said slowly. Remember those weapons modifications I made? The ones you told me to stop working on? Hyejin didn't wait for an answer. I finished them anyway. I created what I call a kinetic resonance cascade. It's basically a really smart bomb that doesn't just explode. It makes other things explode in a chain reaction. That sounds incredibly dangerous, Yuna said. Oh, it is. Super dangerous. Could kill us all if we mess it up. Hyejin waved her hand dismissively. But if we do it right, we can place charges on specific asteroids. When we detonate them, the energy wave will resonate through the field, breaking everything down into dust and tiny fragments, small enough to burn up in atmosphere. Donghyun joined them on the bridge, wiping his hands on a rag. I've been checking our payload. We've got enough modified charges to cover maybe 30% of the field. 30%? Taiyang frowned. That's not enough. It will be, Hyejin said confidently. If we choose the right asteroids and the timing is perfect. Think of it like dominoes. We knock down the right ones and they knock down the rest. And if you're wrong, then we create an even bigger disaster and probably die horribly. Hyejin shrugged. But I'm not wrong. I've run the numbers 17 times. Taeyang looked at his crew. Jiho was already plotting an approach course, completely unconcerned about the danger. Donghyun was checking his equipment, excited about the prospect of setting off the biggest explosion he'd ever made. Yuna looked terrified but determined. Hyejin was practically bouncing with excitement. This was either going to be humanity's greatest moment or their most embarrassing failure. All right, Taiyang said. Let's do it. Jiho, take us in. Finally. Jiho cracked his knuckles. Time to do some real flying. The Soul's Pride dove into the asteroid field. Jiho piloted like he was playing a video game, spinning and weaving between tumbling rocks. Alarms blared constantly. The ship's computer kept warning them about imminent collisions. Jiho ignored all of it. First target coming up, Hyejin announced. The big one at coordinates. I see it, Jiho said, banking hard left. The ship slipped between two asteroids with barely a meter to spare. Taeyang gripped his chair. He trusted his pilot, but this was insane even by human standards. They pulled up beside a massive asteroid easily 3 kilometers across. Donghyun suited up and went EVA, extravehicular activity, walking in space. Through the external cameras, they watched him jet over to the asteroid's surface and plant one of Hyejin's special charges. Charge 1 placed, Donghyun reported. Moving to position 2. They repeated the process 29 more times. Each placement took precious minutes. Jiho had to hold the ship steady in the chaotic field while Donghyun worked. Twice, smaller asteroids came too close and Jiho had to move the ship at the last second, with Donghyun still outside. This is crazy, Yuna said, watching her monitors. The Keelan fleet is trying to reach us. So is the Council. They all say we need to stop. Tell them we're busy, Taeyang said. How many charges left, Hyejin? This is the last one. Donghyun, place it on the asteroid marked Beta 7. On my way. Hours had passed. They'd been dodging rocks, placing explosives, and ignoring increasingly frantic messages from every authority in the sector. Taeyang's hands hurt from gripping the chair arms. Finally, Donghyun reported back. All charges placed and armed. I'm coming back in. Jiho, get us clear of the field, Taeyang ordered. Hyejin, how far do we need to be? At least 50 kilometers. Maybe 100 to be safe. Make it 200, Taeyang said. If we're doing this, let's not cut it close. The Soul's Pride accelerated out of the asteroid field. Behind them, 30 explosive charges sat on 30 carefully chosen asteroids. Waiting. We're clear, Captain, Jiho announced. Hyejin, it's your show. The engineer pulled up her detonation controls. Okay, so in theory, this should work perfectly. In practice, we're about to find out if I'm a genius or if I'm going to accidentally destroy a solar system. Comforting, Taeyang muttered. Detonating in 3, 2, 1. Hyejin pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space lit up like a second sun. The first explosion triggered, then the second, then all of them at once. A cascading wave of energy that rippled through the asteroid field. But instead of creating more debris, something incredible happened. The asteroids didn't just break apart. They disintegrated. The energy wave that Hyejin had designed resonated perfectly, matching the natural frequency of the rocks. Each explosion triggered sympathetic vibrations in nearby asteroids, causing them to shake themselves apart at a molecular level. It was beautiful and terrifying. The dark, threatening cloud of asteroids transformed into a glittering mist of dust and small fragments. It's working, Hyejin shouted. It's actually working. The entire bridge crew watched in awe. The cascade effect spread through the field exactly as predicted. Larger asteroids broke into smaller ones. Smaller ones turned to gravel. Gravel became dust. Calculating new trajectories, Yuna said, her voice shaking. The remaining fragments? They're too small. They'll burn up in atmosphere. Captain, we did it. We actually did it. Cheers erupted on the bridge. Jiho pumped his fist in the air. Donghyun was laughing. Even Yuna, usually so serious, was smiling. Taeyang let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Heejin, you're either the craziest engineer in the galaxy or the smartest. Maybe both. Definitely both, she said, grinning. Captain, Yuna interrupted, we're getting a transmission from the Quilon homeworld. They want to, oh my. What? They want to know who we are and how we did that. They're calling it a miracle. Yuna looked up, tears in her eyes. They're saying we saved 4 billion lives. Taeyang sat back in his chair. Well, guess we should head back to the council station and tell them mission accomplished. Think they'll be mad we didn't ask permission? Jiho asked. Probably. But they can be mad at us after we finish celebrating. Taeyang stood up. Set course for home. And someone find my soju. I'm pretty sure Hyejin still has it. As the Soul's Pride turned away from the dissipating asteroid field, Taeyang looked at his crew. They'd just done the impossible. They'd saved a planet using weapons they weren't supposed to have and methods that civilized species considered too dangerous. They'd done it the human way. And it had worked. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. Never underestimate a species that treats impossible as a personal challenge. 1 month after saving the Quilon homeworld, Captain Taeyang was back at the Galactic Council Station. This time the reception was very different. Aliens who had ignored him before now stopped to stare. Some nodded respectfully. Others moved quickly out of his way. Word had spread fast across the galaxy. Humans were either insane or brilliant. Possibly both. I liked it better when they just ignored us, Taeyang muttered to his tactical officer Sora. She walked beside him, calm and collected as always. You saved 4 billion lives, Captain. People noticed that. Sora carried a datapad filled with strategic plans and scenarios. She carried it everywhere. Besides, fame has advantages. Like what? Like people actually listening when we talk. They entered the council chamber. Ambassador Velthar was there, along with High Commander Breckmore and dozens of other species representatives. But today, all eyes were on the Scar delegation. Breckmore stood with 3 other massive reptilian warriors. They wore armor decorated with battle honors and scars. These weren't diplomats. These were fighters. Ah, Captain Taeyang. Belthar's wings buzzed with what might have been nervousness. The Scar Empire has requested an audience with you. With me? Why? Taeyang had a bad feeling about this. Breckmore stepped forward. Captain, your actions in the asteroid field have brought honor to your species. You showed courage and creativity. However, he paused and his teeth showed in what might have been a smile. You are still untested in true combat. I'm sorry, what? The Scar Empire challenges humanity to a trial of strength, Breckmore announced loudly. This is our ancient tradition. 3 contests, strategic planning, single combat, and ship-to-ship battle. If you win, we acknowledge humans as worthy warriors. If you lose, you admit Scar superiority. The chamber went silent. Every species knew about Scar trials. They were brutal, occasionally fatal. Most species declined the challenge and negotiated instead. You want us to fight you? Taeyang asked. Yes, unless you are afraid. Sora touched Taeyang's arm. Captain, we should discuss this with the crew first. No need, Taeyang said. He looked at the massive Scar warriors, easily twice his size and probably 3 times as strong. Then he grinned. We accept, Captain. Velthar's wings buzzed frantically. Perhaps you should consider. Hold my beer, Taeyang said. Actually, hold all our beers. We're going to need energy drinks for this. Breckmore laughed, a deep booming sound. I like this, human. The trial begins tomorrow. Prepare yourselves. That evening, Taeyang gathered his crew in the Soul's Pride. Sora would handle the strategic planning contest. Sang-woo, their marine commander, would fight in single combat. And Taeyang himself would pilot the ship-to-ship battle. Are we insane? Yuna asked. The Scar haven't lost a trial in 300 years. Then we're due for a win, Sang-woo said calmly. He was shorter than the other Marines but moved like flowing water. I've fought bigger opponents before. Not this big, Yuna countered. Size isn't everything, Sang-woo replied with a slight smile. The next morning, the first contest began. Sora faced the Scar's greatest military strategist, War Chief Krell, in a tactical simulation. Hundreds of aliens gathered to watch on massive displays. The scenario was simple. Two fleets equal in strength, fighting for control of a star system. Krell played the Red Fleet. Sora played the Blue Fleet. Krell's strategy was traditional and honorable. He moved his fleet in standard formations, powerful and direct. His ships advanced like an armored wall, expecting Sora to meet him in glorious battle. Sora did not do what he expected. Her fleet scattered. Small groups of ships hit supply lines, then disappeared. She used asteroids for cover. She feinted attacks from one direction, then struck from another. She even had some ships pretend to malfunction and drift, only to spring to life when Krell's ships came to investigate. This is not honorable combat, Krell roared.
Stand and fight!
No, Sora said simply. Her fingers danced across the controls, directing her forces with precision. Taeyang watched from the viewing area. Sora was using every dirty trick in the book. Ambushes, false retreats, psychological warfare. She made Krell chase her, tire his forces, waste his resources, and all the while her smaller strikes chipped away at his fleet. She fights like a coward, one Scar warrior shouted. She fights like someone who wants to win, Taeyang replied. We didn't become the apex predators on our planet by fighting fair. We survived by being smarter than everything trying to kill us. The simulation ended. Sora's fleet had won with minimal losses. Krell's forces were scattered and demoralized. The chamber was silent. Then Breckmore began to clap slowly, his large hands creating thunderous sounds. Unconventional, he said. Dishonorable by our standards, but effective. Humans win the first trial. Sora returned to the crew area, completely calm. One down, she said. The second trial began an hour later. Single combat. Sang-woo entered the arena to face War Chief Krell himself. Krell had fought in single combat for 40 years without losing. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick scales and dense muscle. Sang-woo looked tiny in comparison. He wore light armor and carried no weapons. The rules were simple. Hand-to-hand combat until one fighter surrendered or couldn't continue. You are brave, small human, Krell said. I will make your death quick. I'm not planning to die today, Sang-woo replied. But thanks for the offer. The fight began. Krell charged like a freight train. Sang-woo sidestepped smoothly, using Krell's momentum against him. The Scar warrior stumbled but quickly recovered. You cannot run forever. I'm not running. I'm dancing. And it was true. Sang-woo moved like he was performing, not fighting. He ducked under massive fists. He rolled away from grabbing claws. Every time Krell tried to use his superior strength, Sang-woo simply wasn't there. Stand still, Krell roared in frustration. Where's the fun in that? Sang-woo replied. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. You know, you're pretty slow for a mighty warrior. Do you skip leg day? Krell's eyes widened. You mock me? Little bit, yeah, the crowd gasped. Nobody mocked a Scar warrior during combat. It was unthinkable. But Sang-woo kept talking, kept joking, kept making Krell angry, and angry fighters make mistakes. When Krell overextended on a punch, Sang-woo was ready. He slipped inside the warrior's guard and struck at pressure points. His hands moved in precise strikes, nerve clusters, joint locks, leverage points. He used Krell's own body against him. The mighty Scar warrior dropped to one knee, his arm locked in a position that should have been impossible. Do you yield? Sang-woo asked politely. Krell tried to move. His arm didn't cooperate. Then incredibly, he started laughing. I cannot move my arm. How did you... What is this magic? It's called knowing where the weak points are. Everyone has them, even big scary reptiles. Sang-woo released the hold and stepped back. So, we done here? Krell stood up, rubbing his arm. He looked at Sang-woo with newfound respect. You fight without honor, without strength, without sense. But you win. I yield, the crowd erupted. The Scar warriors were cheering. Even the ones who had bet against the humans seemed impressed. Your human made me laugh during combat, Krell said to Taeyang afterward. I have never laughed during combat. It confused me greatly. That was kind of the point, Taeyang said. It was brilliant, Krell admitted. Humans win the second trial, 2 trials down. 1 to go. The ship-to-ship battle would happen the next day. Taeyang's soul's pride against Krell's dreadnought, the Blood Honor. On paper, it wasn't even close. The Scar ship was 3 times larger, had more weapons, heavier armor, and stronger shields. But Taeyang had Hyejin and Jiho, and a ship full of humans who didn't know when to quit. As they prepared for the final trial, Hyejin was already making modifications to the ship. "What are you doing?" Taeyang asked. "Making sure we win," she said, not looking up from her work. "Tomorrow we show them that humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make it look awesome while we're doing it." Taeyang grinned. The galaxy still had no idea what humanity was capable of, but they were about to find out. The ship-to-ship battle arena was a designated zone of empty space, carefully monitored by council observers. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species gathered at a safe distance to watch. News of the human Scar trial had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see if the crazy humans could actually win. The Soul's Pride looked small next to the Blood Honor. Krell's dreadnought was a monster of a ship, bristling with weapons and covered in thick armor plating that had survived countless battles. The Soul's Pride, by comparison, looked like a courier ship that had wandered into the wrong neighborhood. "Well," Jiho said from the pilot's seat, "at least we'll look brave when we die." "We're not dying," Taeyang said firmly. "Hyejin, please tell me your modifications are going to help." "Oh, they'll help." Hyejin was grinning again. That grin. "I've rerouted the main power flow, adjusted the shield harmonics, and installed something special in the forward tubes." "What's in the tubes?" "Surprises. I hate your surprises." "You love my surprises," Hyejin corrected. "You just hate admitting it." The council observer's voice crackled over the communications channel. "Both ships, take your positions. The trial will begin on my mark. Standard rules apply. Fight until one ship is disabled or surrenders. Lethal force is discouraged but permitted. May honor guide you both." "Honor's nice," Taeyang muttered, "but I'll take Hyejin's surprises instead." The Blood Honor moved into position 3 kilometers away. Compared to the Soul's Pride, it looked like a whale facing a goldfish. "Captain Taeyang," Krell's voice came through the comm. "You have fought well in the previous trials. If you wish to yield now, there is no shame. Your crew will live, and we can speak of this as a worthy attempt." "That's really thoughtful," Taeyang said, "but we didn't come this far to give up. Besides, where's the fun in that?" Krell laughed. "Then let us begin. I look forward to testing your skills, Mark," the observer announced. The Blood Honor opened fire immediately. Massive energy weapons lit up space, cutting through the distance between the ships. Jiho's hands flew across the controls. The Soul's Pride spun, twisted, and dove. Energy beams passed through empty space where they'd been a second before. "Too slow," Jiho called out. "Come on, is that the best you've got?" "Jiho, stop taunting them and keep us alive," Taeyang ordered. "I can do both." The Soul's Pride accelerated hard, moving faster than a ship its size should be able to move. That was Hyejin's first modification. She'd overclocked the engines by 30%. It was dangerous and probably illegal, but it worked. "Returning fire," Dong-hyun announced. Their smaller weapons pecked at the Blood Honor's shields, doing minimal damage. "Their shields are too strong," Yuna reported. "Our weapons can't penetrate." "Then we don't try to penetrate," Taeyang said. "We do something else." "Jiho, get us close and close?" "To that thing?" "Captain, it's got point defense weapons that will tear us apart." "I know. That's why we're going to be moving really, really fast." Jiho grinned. "Now we're talking." The Soul's Pride changed course, accelerating directly toward the Blood Honor. Every sensor screamed warnings. The Scar ship's targeting systems locked on. "They're charging main weapons," Yuna said, her voice tight. "If they hit us at this range, they won't hit us," Jiho said. He sounded confident. "Too confident, how can you be sure?" "Because I'm awesome." The Blood Honor fired. Jiho banked hard left, then rolled right, then cut engines and let momentum carry them in a spin. Energy beams passed so close that the sensors registered heat damage. "See? Awesome, they were within a kilometer now." The Blood Honor tried to turn to keep its main guns on them, but the massive ship was too slow. Jiho took advantage, flying around the dreadnought like a mosquito buzzing a bear. "Hyejin now," Taeyang ordered, deploying surprises. The Soul's Pride's forward tubes opened. But instead of missiles or torpedoes, they released clouds of metallic dust mixed with reflective particles. The clouds expanded rapidly, surrounding the Blood Honor. "What is this?" Krell's voice came through, confused. "You attack us with dust?" "Not just dust," Hyejin said happily. "That's my special mixture. Watch what happens when it hits your sensors. The reflective particles scattered the Blood Honor's targeting systems. Their sensors couldn't tell the difference between the dust clouds and actual objects. The mighty dreadnought was effectively blind. Now Dong-hyun, Tae-yang said, hit them where it hurts. With pleasure. The Soul's Pride positioned itself directly behind the Blood Honor's main engines. Dong-hyun fired everything they had at the engine ports, the one place where even a dreadnought was vulnerable. Explosions rippled across the Blood Honor's stern. Not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to damage the engine systems. Engine efficiency dropping, Yuna reported. They're losing power, but Krell wasn't done. The Blood Honor used maneuvering thrusters to spin around. Even damaged, the ship had dozens of weapons still functional. They're adapting, Sora said from the tactical station, switching to manual targeting. The dust won't fool them for long. Then we hit them again before they can recover, Tae-yang said. Hyejin, you said you had more modifications? The best one. Remember how I said I rerouted the power flow? Yes. Well, I figured out how to dump all our shield power into the emitters and cycle it in milliseconds instead of minutes. We can't keep shields up constantly, but we can pulse them on and off really fast. What good does that do? It means we can go to ramming speed. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. You want to ram a dreadnought? Yuna asked. Not ram exactly. More like aggressive bumping. That is the worst plan I've ever heard, Tae-yang said. Then he smiled. Let's do it. Jiho, full power to engines. Hyejin, get ready with those shield pulses. Captain Tae-yang, Krell's voice came through the comm. What are you planning? Your ship is approaching at ramming speed. Surely you don't intend. Surely we do. Tae-yang interrupted. See you in a second. The Soul's Pride accelerated directly at the Blood Honor. This time there was no fancy flying, no dodging. They flew straight like a missile. The Blood Honor opened fire with everything. Energy weapons, projectile cannons, even a few missiles. The space between the ships lit up like a fireworks display. Shields, Hyejin shouted. The Soul's Pride's shields pulsed on, absorbed a barrage of fire, then cycled off before they overloaded. On, off, on, off. Hyejin's timing was perfect, catching hits during the brief moments when the shields were active, saving power when they weren't being targeted. They were within 200 meters, 100, 50. At the last possible second, Jiho flipped the ship and Hyejin dropped all power into the shields for one massive burst. The Soul's Pride slammed into the Blood Honor's bridge section, shields blazing. The impact would have destroyed most ships. But the shield burst absorbed the collision force and transferred it directly to the dreadnought. The Blood Honor's bridge crumpled. Systems sparked and failed. The massive ship went dark, its power grid overwhelmed by the impact. The Soul's Pride bounced off, spun wildly, and drifted away. Inside, everyone was groaning, everyone alive. Tae-yang asked, checking himself for broken bones. I think so, Yuna said weakly. That was either the coolest thing I've ever done or the dumbest, Jiho said. Maybe both. It worked, didn't it? Hyejin said, looking at her displays. The Blood Honor is completely disabled. Life support is fine, but everything else is offline. The comm crackled. Captain Tae-yang, Krell's voice sounded strained. I must ask, are all humans this insane? Pretty much, yeah, I see. There was a long pause. Then I am glad we chose to ally with you rather than fight you as enemies. My ship is disabled, I yield. Humans win the trial. Cheers erupted on the Soul's Pride. They'd done it. They'd actually won all 3 trials. The Council Observer's voice came through. By unanimous decision, the Scar Empire acknowledges humanity as worthy warriors and offers full military alliance. This trial is concluded. The watching ships erupted in communication chatter. Bets were settled. Arguments started. And somewhere, someone began compiling a report titled, Human Combat Psychology A Warning. Back on the council station, Krell met with Tae-yang personally. The Scar warrior clasped his shoulder, gently, given the size difference. Your species fights without honor, without tradition, and without following any rules we understand, Krell said. But you fight to win, and you do it with style. We respect this. From this day forward, the Scar stand with humanity. We appreciate that, Tae-yang said. Just
Maybe don't tell everyone else all our tricks?
Krell laughed. Too late. The recordings of this trial will spread across the galaxy. Soon every species will know. When a human says, hold my beer, it is time to either take cover or record what happens next. And he was right. Within days, the phrase spread across alien civilizations. It became a warning, a promise, and sometimes a threat. The galaxy was learning what humans were capable of. And some species weren't sure if that was a good thing or a terrifying thing. Most decided it was both. 6 months after the trial, humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. The Soul's Pride returned to Earth for resupply, and Captain Tae-Yang finally got some rest. But it didn't last long. The emergency summons came at 3 in the morning. Admiral Nari, the new commander of Earth's expanded fleet, contacted every human ship in the sector. Her message was simple and terrifying. Return to Council space immediately. The Vex have returned. Tae-Yang had never heard of the Vex. But when he arrived at the Council station, he saw something he'd never seen before. The aliens were scared, not worried, not concerned. Actually, genuinely terrified. The council chamber was chaos. Ambassador Velthar's wings buzzed frantically. Krell and his Scar warriors looked grim. Even species Tae-Yang had never seen before had gathered, all sharing the same expression of dread. "What are the Vex?" Tae-Yang asked Heejin quietly. "Checking now." She pulled up information on her datapad. Her face went pale. Oh no. What? The Vex are an ancient AI collective. Thousands of years ago, they tried to exterminate all organic life in the galaxy. It took every species working together to drive them into dark space. They've been gone for 3,000 years, and now they're back? Apparently. Admiral Nari stood at the front of the chamber. She was older than Tae-Yang with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd commanded fleets when Tae-Yang was still in academy. The Vex emerged from dark space 6 hours ago, Nari announced. They have a fleet of approximately 2,000 ships. All of them are controlled by a networked intelligence that analyzes and adapts to every tactic we use. They've already destroyed 3 observation outposts. We must evacuate, Velthar said. Prepare the core worlds for departure. We cannot fight the Vex. History has proven this. History also said humans couldn't save the Kilon homeworld, Nari replied, or beat the Scar trials. Maybe it's time we wrote some new history. Krell nodded in agreement. The Scar stand ready to fight. But Admiral, the Vex have had 3,000 years to evolve. Our old tactics won't work. Then we use new tactics, Nari said. Specifically human tactics. The chamber went silent. All eyes turned to the human delegation. You want us to fight an ancient AI that nearly destroyed the galaxy? Tae-Yang asked. Yes. And you think we can win? I think we're the only species crazy enough to try. Nari pulled up a holographic display. The Vex operate on perfect logic and prediction. They analyze every possible outcome and counter accordingly. Traditional military strategy is useless against them. But humans aren't traditional, Hyejin said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Exactly. The Vex have never encountered humans. They don't have data on our combat psychology. They can't predict what we'll do because half the time we don't know what we'll do. Dr. Jae Sung, a physicist who'd recently joined the fleet, spoke up. He was young and brilliant with a reputation for creative interpretations of natural laws. I might have something, Jae Sung said nervously. I've been working on a theoretical weapon. It's based on weaponizing quantum uncertainty. Explain, Nari ordered. Okay, so the Vex are perfect logical machines, right? They calculate probabilities and outcomes. But quantum mechanics doesn't work that way. At the quantum level, things exist in multiple states until observed. I figured out how to create a localized probability field where reality itself becomes uncertain. Everyone stared at him. You weaponized uncertainty? Velthar's wings had stopped buzzing entirely. Sort of. I'm not entirely sure how it works. That's kind of the point. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, Krell said. Let's try it. 2 days later, every human ship in the sector gathered at the edge of Council space. The fleet was small compared to the Vex Armada, but it was the entire military force humanity could muster. 47 ships against 2,000. The odds were terrible. But the humans didn't care about odds. All ships, this is Admiral Nari, the fleet commander's voice rang out. You all know what we're facing. The Vex have spent 3,000 years calculating how to defeat every known species. But they haven't met us yet. So here's the plan. We don't have one. Laughter rippled through the communication channels. That's right, Nari continued. We're going to do what humans do best. Make it up as we go. Every ship acts independently. No formations. No standard tactics. Be unpredictable. Be creative. Be absolutely chaotic. Make the Vex calculate so many possibilities that they lock up trying to process them all. And when Jae-sung deploys his quantum weapon, we hit them with everything we've got. Admiral Tae-yang said, permission to use the phrase? Nari smiled. Granted. Attention all human ships, Tae-yang announced.
Hold my beer.
Let's go save the galaxy. Cheers erupted across the fleet. The Vex armada approached like a dark cloud of perfect geometric formations. Their ships moved with machine precision, each one positioned optimally for maximum combat efficiency. The human fleet charged forward with absolutely no formation at all. The Soul's Pride weaved between Vex ships, firing at seemingly random targets. Other human vessels did the same. Some flew in spirals, some moved in zigzag patterns. One ship flew backwards while shooting. There was no pattern, no predictability, no logic. The Vex tried to adapt. Their ships calculated firing solutions, predicted human movements, and positioned themselves accordingly. But the humans didn't follow any pattern. They were chaos incarnate. The Vex are adapting slower than expected, Sora reported. They're trying to process too many variables at once. Good, Tae-yang said. Jiho, do something especially stupid. Way ahead of you, Captain. Jiho performed a maneuver that violated 3 laws of physics and probably several safety regulations. The Vex ships nearby actually paused as if confused by what they'd just witnessed. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out. Humans doing impossible things, making irrational decisions, winning fights they should have lost through sheer audacity. Jae-sung, status on the quantum weapon? Nari asked, charging now. I need 30 seconds and someone to cover me while I position the ship. All ships converge on Jae-sung's position, Nari ordered. Buy him time. Every human ship turned at once, creating a protective screen around Jae-sung's vessel. The Vex saw the concentration of forces and adapted, sending hundreds of ships to break through. They didn't understand what they were facing. Humans protecting one of their own fought differently. They fought like cornered animals, desperate, fierce, and absolutely refusing to back down. The Soul's Pride took heavy fire. Shields failed. Hull plating melted, but they didn't retreat. Quantum weapon ready, Jae-sung announced. Deploying now. Everyone might want to close your eyes. The weapon activated. Reality hiccuped. Space itself seemed to fracture. A sphere of probability expanded from Jae-sung's ship, washing over the Vex fleet. Inside the sphere, quantum uncertainty became weaponized. The Vex ships existed in multiple states at once, present and absent, damaged and whole, moving and still. The perfect machine intelligence of the Vex tried to calculate which state was real. They analyzed, processed, computed, but there was no single answer. Every calculation showed different results. Every prediction contradicted the last. The Vex fleet locked up, their AI minds overwhelmed by infinite possibilities with no logical resolution. Now, Nari shouted. Hit them while they're frozen. The human fleet unleashed everything. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds, and probably a few things that weren't technically legal. The paralyzed Vex ships couldn't dodge, couldn't adapt, couldn't respond. Explosions lit up space like stars being born. When the quantum field finally collapsed, half the Vex fleet was destroyed. The survivors did something no one had ever seen before. They retreated. The ancient AI that had nearly ended all organic life in the galaxy fled from 47 human ships. The Council monitoring stations erupted in celebration. Species that had feared the Vex for millennia watched in disbelief as the invincible enemy ran away. Back on the Soul's Pride, the crew collapsed in their chairs, exhausted and injured but alive. Did we just win? Yuna asked. I think we did, Tae-yang said, using a weapon that breaks the laws of physics. Technically, it uses the laws of physics, Jae-sung corrected, just in ways physics wasn't expecting. Admiral Nari's voice came through the comm. All ships return to base, and someone get me a full report on what just happened because I'm not sure I can explain it. Days later, the Galactic Council held a ceremony. Humanity was officially named Protectors of Organic Life. They were given voting rights, fleet command authority, and access to every scientific database in Council space. More importantly, they were given respect. The Council also passed a new law, officially recorded in the Galactic Code. The first law of survival: when a human says, "Hold my beer," all nearby species should 1. Clear the area, 2. Record what happens, and 3. Prepare to be amazed and horrified simultaneously. Captain Taeyang stood with his crew on the observation deck of the council station, looking out at the stars. The Soul's Pride was in dock, getting repaired after the battle. What do we do now? Heejin asked. We saved a planet, won the Scar trials, and beat the Vex. What's left? The universe is a big place, Taeyang said. I'm sure we'll find something new to blow up or someone new to confuse. Please don't, Admiral Nari said, walking up behind them. I have enough paperwork.